and two kids that like to wonder. It's not so fun when you get into like Bethlehem, which is a very, very dangerous, like going to the south side of Chicago by yourself at nighttime. That's not a place you go. Went to Jericho as well. So Hunter's going to start off and just talk about your experience. And they're also going to thank all of you for who gave for them to go as well. So Hunter, take a moment and talk about it as we get this working.
I don't remember everything.
Just talk best you can, please. Okay? Your journey in Israel.
So I was on the plane. Wasn't good food. So then when we landed, we went we landed in Tel Aviv. We went to the first hotel, and then okay, so I went to Hezekiah's tunnel, and so it was dark, and you needed a flashlight, and it was cold water, and so after that, we
So you went to Hezekiah's tunnel. It was a dark tunnel. It was a water tunnel. How far did the water come up on you?
it went up past my knee to my waist.
Almost to your waist.
Yes.
So to give them a little bit of context, it was raining outside.
Yes, it was raining.
It rained for like 4 days while we were there. And just because it's rain doesn't mean that we stop the tour. We literally continue on with the tour in the rain.
My feet were soaked.
Yes, we were soaked. Obviously, you were waist deep in water. But the temperature was about 52 degrees, and you were waist deep in water.
Yes.
Okay. So where's Hezekiah's tunnel located? City of David.
Oh yeah, it's in the city of David.
Yes. And so what did you like most about the trip?
Probably where we walked where Jesus drug the cross, and they were playing the Game of Kings. Probably my favorite.
What is the Game of Kings? Do you remember?
Really?
Okay. The Game of Kings is what the soldiers played with Jesus. It's a game that they would play the Game of Kings. If you won, you were free. But nobody ever won the Game of Kings. They put a scepter in his hand, which would be a stick. They put a crown of thorns on his head because he's a king, and draped him in a purple cloth around him, and played this game where he would never win, but yet they still played it with him.
They played it with him, not knowing that he was the king.
Correct. And so we walked on the very streets. What is it? You need this again? Okay. Dolorosa is the actual path of Jesus. So we actually walked on the actual road that Jesus walked on. He actually bled on. Now, I'm not going to get into all the details of the locations where you went from the prison to Pilate's house, then back to the prison, and walking all the roads all the way up to Golgotha. It's quite a long ways. He was beaten every time he went down a road. They would kick him, they'd punch him, it would cause blood, internal bleeding. A lot of these things took place, and so it was a very shocking thing to see the amount of distance. If we was to put an actual mileage to it, you would probably be looking somewhere about 2 to 3 miles that he was bleeding, bruised, walking with the cross. Okay, so what else did you like?
The Dead Sea.
Yeah, Hunter actually got into the Dead Sea.
Both did. We
Yes,
actually
I
floated
did.
into the Dead Sea.
Yes,
It's
they
actually very
both
cool.
did.
And when you just sit there, you float.
If you turn backwards, you cannot stand up. You have to physically go in front.
There's
And,
so
or else
many
you will float
minerals in there.
backwards.
It's scientifically proven that that they don't know how deep it is, because you can't.
Well, they have an approximate depth of it, but
Yes.
sonars won't work because the minerals cloud the sonars and radars.
Right.
Yes. So Hunter went to Dead Sea, so did Lexi. Hunter tried to float on his back, lift his feet up in the air, and touch his toes at the same time, and he still floated, and he never went under. So that was pretty neat. Anything else before we pass it over to Lexi?
Can't remember.
Okay. Anything you want to say to anybody for sponsoring you?
Thank you for everybody that helped me get to Israel, because it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I'm living some people's dreams.
All right. Yeah, thank you, buddy.
So,
Head down.
you guys are gonna have to bear with me because I hate talking in front of people. Okay?
All right, Lexi, what'd you like about this trip the most?
Okay. My favorite part was probably the Western Wall because there's lots of prayers that people is putting into the walls that they know that Jesus is going to help them answer their prayers that they put into the wall. There's multiple teenager girls. There's some girls that is maybe looks like age of 11. They're running around dancing. We actually, with Sister Harpo, we actually stood on a chair in the girls section because the girls split away from the men's section. So we actually stood.
And that's at the Western Wall, right?
Yes,
Okay.
at the Western Wall. So we stood on a chair and we looked over to the men's section because girls are not allowed to the men's section and the men are not allowed to the women's section. So we stood on a chair and we looked, and there's actually it's Jews. Okay, there's men Jews that is just dancing around in circles. They're praying. They actually read through the Bible and they move back and forth, which is actually really cool to me because I've never seen that before. To pray, people that pray like that. That was really cool to me.
Anything else? How'd you like the fruit?
We actually did not able to go there this time.
Yeah, for those of you who are wondering, a squatty potty, it's not a traditional toilet. It is flat with the floor. It's a ceramic square, a rectangle about this big, and you literally have to squat over the floor to use it. The only place that we knew of it in the old city was the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. That was the only place we knew, and we didn't go in there this time. Go ahead.
Here you see multiple squirrels everywhere. They do not have squirrels. They're actually cats everywhere.
Yeah. So no squirrels. They have cats everywhere. Literally cats everywhere. And so we was up on the north side of Sea of Galilee. We were eating.
On the Sea of Galilee, actually.
Right.
Actually on
But we were on
boat.
the north side of Sea of Galilee, and we had lunch with St. Peter's fish, the same type of fish that they found the coins in. She did not. She
I
had
did
chicken
not.
fingers.
I ate chicken because I don't eat fish.
But Hunter and I had fish where they just sliced the belly open, pull everything out, then dropped the whole fish into a deep fryer. Eyes, tails, fins, and all. And so we had that, and it's the same fish. They found the coins in the mouth that Peter did. What else? How'd you like the fruit?
The fruit was very good to me. I will say one thing that I am planning on not eating for a very long time is chicken and rice and potatoes because I had that almost every single day.
Yeah. So we got so sick of chicken and rice. When I say sick of it, I'm talking about you're eating it twice a day, every day.
Our tourist was sick of it. That he said, "I'm sick of chicken, rice, and potatoes. I'm getting pizza."
So
That's
So
Mr. Hezzy.
yeah, it's Mr. Hezzy's our tour guide. He was part of the 6-Day War, came over from Afghanistan as a child, was raised in Afghanistan, came to Israel when we became a nation, and then it was in 1947, was part of the 6-Day War, and remembers it very well and telling us the story of the 6-Day War when they took the Temple Mount for the first time and how it was on the radio and they all began to rejoice. So it was an awesome, awesome experience. Anything else you want to add to it, Lex? No?
I really liked the part where Jesus actually drug the cross where the kings played.
Game of Kings, yep.
Yes, because there was actually this one area, and we actually went with some of our group to the part where he actually drug the cross on walkway. They actually have a regular tile or regular ground that they had.
It was the actual original streets.
The actual original streets of where Jesus has walked. They actually have olive trees. There was some that is 1,800 years old, and there's one like 2,200 years old, if I'm
like
correct.
22 to 2,300 years old,
Yes.
that they believe that Jesus actually, these trees were actually in the garden. They believe that Jesus actually prayed in this garden with these olive trees. They can date them back that far.
They are still growing to this day, actually.
They are still producing fruit to this day, yes.
Yes.
Yes. And I will be preaching in a later time about generations on that very garden, but the olive trees, I won't give you a lot of information, but it's really, really neat. Anything else? Because they finally got me working.
I don't think so. I think that's it. I just had a really good time. It was actually very fun. I am planning on going next time, hopefully. Let's pray. My dad is wanting to take my mom, but it's fine. But if I don't, then I want to go to the Greece trip for John the Baptist.
Yep. The journey of John the Baptist through Turkish into Greece.
Yep.
So
But thank you all who gave me the chance to go, because some people do not have the opportunity to go. So that was really cool to even get a chance to even go as a kid, because as I get older, I will be able to remember all of that. It actually opened up my eyes a lot through the Bible, so it was very cool. So thank you.
Hey. Thank you, Lex. Very quickly, I apologize for taking so long to get this fixed, and I think I messed it up by sending more photos. But 2 Chronicles chapter 6 with verse 6, it says, "But I have chosen Jerusalem, that my name might be there, and have chosen David to be over my people Israel." You notice in the picture here, this is, in Hebrew, this is where God wrote his name. And to give you a better reference of it, you can see the Gehinnom Valley, the Kindram Valley, where all three valleys come together. The city of David there in the center. City of David here in the center. I'm trying to get this to work here. Then you have the Temple Mount, which is here at the very, very tip of it. And then the Tipron Valley. Now, let me show you this from the picture. And it might be hard for you to see, so allow me. This is the valley that goes here, valley that goes here, the valley that goes here, where he wrote his name. Lord, in your name. All right. Did you see me write on it a few minutes ago? Okay. Okay. So this is where he wrote his name with the three valleys together, with the Temple Mount being right here, city of David right here. So he actually wrote his name in Jerusalem topographically. So very quickly, I want to go through this because I have taken a lot of your time already. This picture here is on the Mount of Olives looking over to the temple. You will see on the right-hand side from the Temple Mount, we'll see right here is the Eastern Gate. And the Lord said that when he comes back, we'll come back from the Mount of Olives. Comes back to the Mount of Olives, and from the Mount of Olives, he will go through the Eastern Gate. So the Mount of Olives, go through the Eastern Gate. Now, as you can see, that there is a valley full of graveyards. You'll see that there's graves here, all through here, Kindram Valley, all through here, and then the city of David is over here. Okay? And so when he comes back to the Mount of Olives, he is going to go through the Eastern Gate. Now, Jesus went through the Eastern Gate during Palm Sunday when he rode his donkey through the Eastern Gate. However, you can see here at the Eastern Gate that it is blocked up. You cannot get through the Eastern Gate. The Muslim community, I'm not going to get into the history of it. I was going to. I have a lot of notes, but if I dive into them, I wouldn't want to stop. Maybe one night at a Bible study we can dive into the history of all this, of Israel. But the Muslims have purchased the Eastern Gate. They have now turned into a mosque. They have blocked it up, as you can see. They've blocked everything up, blocked the gate up, and put a cemetery in front of the Eastern Gate. So what does that mean? That means the Muslims actually believe that our Messiah will return. And they're trying to stop our Messiah from returning. So Muslims believe that our God is going to return for his people. And they're trying to stop our God from returning. Let that sink in for a moment. Okay? This is the Eastern Gate right here. You can see the man standing there. This is a mosque. This is the Eastern Gate itself. And on this side, the side that you see, is the opening of the Eastern Gate, and the other side is blocked in. So they have turned this into a mosque. I have other photos that perhaps you'll see online later that I can zoom in. You can see all the rugs laying out inside there and everything else. But this is the Eastern Gate from the top of the steps on the inside from the Temple Mount. Now, all through the old city of Jerusalem, they don't have a traditional mall. They have outdoor markets. The outdoor markets look something very similar to this. This is the Palestinian quarters. This is also the Palestinian quarters. And this is how they sell their goods as you walk through Israel. This is in the old city, not the new city, but the old city of Jerusalem. And so this is the Palestinian quarters we're walking through. This is part of the trail of the Via Dolorosa, which is where Jesus carried the cross, where he bled. This is the path that we were taking to go to a different area inside the old city itself. Now, one of the things that the Jews hold very dear to the heart is the Western Wall. The Western Wall is something that they fought for. As I stated on the Six-Day War, they came across the radio saying, we have now taken the Temple Mount. And here, men is in war. 6 days, the shortest war ever. They conquered many areas. We went to a site on top of a hill on, do you remember where it is, Hunter? Up in Golan Heights area. So far north from where we were standing, we can see Lebanon and Syria at the same time. That's how far north we was in Israel. And so we went to this fortress that they were holding to where the Jordanians took over that spot, and they were launching rockets down to the valley of where the Jewish people was in the 1945, 46, 47 era. And so as they're fighting, many men lost their lives charging the hill to take it over. But they knew if they took that stronghold that Israel could have their ground back and push the Jordanians out and go up the valley towards Damascus. So they fought, and while they're fighting, it comes across to the radio that they have taken the Temple Mount. So these men that are literally fighting, shooting at each other, stands up in their bunkers, begin to shout and dance and give God praise right in the middle of a war. Because they were thankful that God gave them the Western Wall. This is the area that is closest to the Holies of Holies of the Temple Mount. And this picture here, I did a bad thing. I did a really bad thing, and I took this picture. I wasn't supposed to, but I took the picture at the Western Wall during Shabbat. And so they were celebrating. You're not going to have any type of electronics there, no cameras. I tried my very best to smuggle a GoPro in and video, but it must have been God, because I turned it on before I walked in and got off the bus and had it sitting here in my shirt, had the folder full of prayers walking in and hiding the camera. And I walk to the Western Wall and I pull it down, and I've got electrical tape wrapped around it so nobody can see the lights that I'm recording, but nothing recorded. So, however, your prayers are actually in this Western Wall. And if you look in this area right here, you see that little slot in the wall. You see that? That is where your prayers went into. I took the whole folder and I placed it in that crevice in the Western Wall. So they now have the Western Wall, this area where they celebrate, they worship, they dance. I have a video, and these men, you can see vaguely, these men right here are in a circle holding hands. And they're literally going in a circle, shouting, singing, and worshiping. And they've done that for over 2 hours in the rain. In the rain. And you'll see here on the right-hand side, you'll see this is the wall right here that separates the men and the women. And you can see the women looking over the wall, watching the men celebrate. In Jewish culture, it is is one of those things that the men are the one responsible for bringing the worship and the power of God back into their family. See, we as Americans, or dare I say apostolics, are a little backwards because the women's usually the ones that's shouting and dancing while the men sit back and just watch. What would happen if we change our culture and our mindset, and as men, who the priest of our homes, was to bring the power of God down and bring it back into our homes? Now, I can tell you, and my children can tell you as well, as we're pulling up to the Western Wall to get out, grown men are literally running through traffic, playing human Frogger. I'm not trying to be funny, I'm being serious. Playing human Frogger because they want to get to the Western Wall and pray. And get to the Western Wall and praise God. They're literally running through traffic. And if you've ever played in traffic in Israel, you understand that is a borderline suicide because they're absolutely crazy and absolutely nuts over there. Lexi has got firsthand experience where, Mom, you're just now hearing this for the first time. So we were out dinner one night, and this is the first time Maria's hearing this, but she ran across the street with another pastor. Then he's like, well, let's go ahead and go. He takes off running in front of a bus. Bus was parked. Here comes another car and missed her by just a few inches. So it was very scary. However, they are very crazy. But these men were literally jumping through vehicles, driving down the road just to get to the place of worship. You see them running down the sidewalk as fast as they can just to get in the presence of God. Now, Shabbat happens at sundown on Friday night and ends at sunset on Saturday evening. So Friday, when they get off of work, it is customary to take flowers home to the wife. And then once you take flowers home, you change into your clothes, you go to the Western Wall, and you are there to worship and praise for hours. You'll go home, you'll come back the next morning, and you do the same thing all day long. And this is the men, this is what they do as the women watch. And they take their small children. If you go through here and really look, there's some children in here, age 6, 7, 8 years old, that's dancing, shouting, and chanting with Dad, holding his hand, shouting. Here is a letter into the Western Wall that somebody put in. Here's an Orthodox Jew at the Western Wall. So there's a lot of rich history, and it is absolutely amazing. I'm not going to get into the background of Orthodox Jews and what that hat is and what's actually on his hat. But the Western Wall is something that it'll change you forever. If you've never been there, it will absolutely change you. There is a website that you can go to and see a live view of the Western Wall 24 hours a day. So you need to go there Friday night when Shabbat starts, and you need to watch the live and watch them jumping and chanting. I don't know if you can actually hear them, but you can see them. The place goes absolutely bonkers, and it will lift your spirit, I promise you. So as we read in 2 Corinthians 6:6, it talks about how God's going to write his name in it, and David is going to be the one that be over his people. Well, it started at a very young age in this valley right here. This valley right here is the Valley of Elah. This is where the Jews stood against the Philistines. So the Philistines were here on this side. The Jews were over here on this side. And they were chanting and bickering back and forth for days until David showed up. And when David showed up, everything changed. As a young Hebrew boy, 13, 14 years old. And he killed Goliath in this very valley. This is the very brook. There's only one brook that runs this whole valley. This is the brook that runs through the Valley of Elah. And yes, we pulled stones out of it. And yes, Thursday night, I've got a water bottle full of rocks so you can have a rock from this very brook. But as David begins to take the head of Goliath and kill him, he brings the head back, Goliath back to Jerusalem, only for him to become king at a later time and begin to build the city of David. This is the city of David. This is also, this is all original. The arch you see there is original. Here are some of the rooms of the city of David. Here's also part of the city of David. And yes, that is Lexi standing there posing on one of the walls of the city of David. I purchased several coins that actually was found in the city of David while I was there. King Hebron, I bought a 3-week coin. I bought a Masada coin. We'll get into Masada later. And I actually bought a Roman Caesar, King Caesar's coin as well, along with a oil vase that carried oil that was found in the city of David. So a lot of great stuff, and we'll talk about that in a later date and everything. But this is the city of David, and Hezekiah's tunnel is part of the city of David as well, and it comes out. And the whole structure of the city of David would absolutely just mesmerize you. And again, time does not allow me to go into it today, but very quickly, here is the Temple Mount from looking at the Mount of Olives onto the Temple Mount itself. And yes, this is a Muslim mosque that has been built on top of the Temple Mount just to get back at the Jews so that they can't build their temple. But little do they know, they will rebuild their temple. They have everything they need to rebuild the temple right now, including the Ark of the Covenant, the original Ark of the Covenant. They know exactly where it's at. They know exactly, what was the words? They know exactly where it's at, and they are able to get to it. That was the words from the museum. This room here is the upper room. The Last Supper was taken here. We had prayer in here. This has also been purchased by the Muslims and turned into a Muslim mosque as well. But nevertheless, this is the upper room. There's just a few photos from the upper room here. If you look, this photo right here is actually this window right here. Here's a couple of the columns that are inside. Here is a ram, part of the light structure of the ceiling. But just below the upper room is the tomb of David, King David. Right outside the room, you'll see a room full of Jews praying, going through their scrolls and reading. In the next room, from this room you see here, is the tomb of David. This is directly underneath the upper room. Now, if I can take you north, up to the north side of Sea of Galilee, there is a temple here, and I wish I had more time to dive into the mikvahs. I know I told you I'd talk about it today, and I apologize, but I am not going to talk about it because I want to save that for a time that we can dive into the mikvahs. And that is where we get our baptism, our submersion from. So I know you're looking forward to it, but I am skipping it. So this is Qumran. This is the very place where they found the Dead Sea Scrolls. This is the actual location of the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls actually was Isaiah. Now, when you look at the Dead Sea Scrolls and look at the 1611 of the King James Version, you look at Isaiah side by side, they are 98% accurate. 98% accurate. So, with that being said, the 2% is because of the dialect of our English, so we can understand it. That's the 2% upset. But they found the Dead Sea Scrolls, and it was 98% accurate according to the 1611 edition. This is also the same valley of Qumran. You can see in the bottom right-hand corner right here, that is these two caves. But you can see at the top of the mountain, water comes down through here and comes out when it rains. Now, you can see right here, see this little black dot? That's about 40 to 50 people down there, locals having lunch. That's how big that valley is. Here's another view, just on the back side of this area right here. There's where those caves are, but this is looking out towards the Dead Sea. You can see the Dead Sea out here. That is the Dead Sea. It is a very, very large valley. Now, I'm going to take you north. I'm going to take you from the Dead Sea. Now we're going all the way north to the Sea of Galilee. We watched the sunrise of the Sea of Galilee one morning, and it was one of the most spectacular things we've ever experienced. We took a boat ride, had a worship session on the Sea of Galilee. This is a local pastor, not local to us, but a pastor in Indiana, Pastor David Stovall. He actually FaceTimed his wife, dear, and it was like 1:30 in the morning here, and she got on FaceTime with him. So I don't know. So. Here is also the sun rising over the Jordanian mountains, and if you look right here, in that location, see how the mountains dip right there? Right there in the corner where the mountains dip, that is where the man that was full of devils, seeing Jesus come and ran down to the mountains to meet him. That is the actual cave. We also went into the Holocaust Museum, which was very, very sombering. So this is the actual museum right here. As you walk in, and it's all A-frame type, looking down and through. You walk through there. They've got everything from the different carts they use, from the different firearms, including the actual gas they use to kill them. Handwritten letters from those that were in the Holocaust at a young age. Children's glasses and coloring books, shoes and clothing of little kids, all there in this museum. But I put this photo here as last, as I come to an end. They just come to the music. I know this has not been a normal thing today, but we were walking back to the Western Wall. And on the way to the Western Wall, you can see this man has got a ram's horn. He is going there to worship. He has gathered everything he needed, and he is in a hurry. I had to be very, very quick taking this photo. He is in a hurry to get to the Western Wall. The Western Wall to them is like the church to us. It is a place of worship. And so he is on his way to worship God. And you'll see that this is Hezi, our tour guide, and this is, I believe it's Sister Harpo here. And he literally almost split them running to get through just to get to the Western Wall. If there's anything I've learned on the 2 times I've been there so far, is that when it comes to their culture, when it comes to their love of the Messiah, nothing will stop them from worshiping. Nothing can hold them back. Nothing can hinder them to get to the place of worship. You will see them on planes. We was flying back from Tel Aviv to New York. They were in the aisle with their books, reading and facing towards Israel. And they were rocking back and forth, praying. Nothing stopped them. Those around them didn't stop them from worshiping. Your opinion didn't stop them from worshiping. Nothing hindered them from doing what they love, and that is worship. So out of this entire trip, I came back with a burden of God's people to do whatever it takes. To do whatever it takes to not only be in the presence of God, but be an example of who and what God is. You say, well, it's easy over there. It is not easy over there. You have the Jewish community, you have the Muslim community, and you have the Christian community, which is the Catholics. And the Muslim community, the Palestinians, go ahead and play, please, will do everything they can to cause a hiccup for the Jewish community. They'll do everything they can to cause disrupt or discord. When it comes to Shabbat, the Sabbath, when the Jews are celebrating, unfortunately there was Palestinian Muslims killing Jews while we were there. Bethlehem, the day that we were in Bethlehem, we didn't know it the next day, but there was 2 German tourists that went there in a rental car by themselves. Went to Bethlehem because they wanted to see the so-called place that Catholics said that Jesus was born. But That's neither here nor there of my opinion, but they went there to go see it. The Palestinians there in Bethlehem pulled them out of the car and began to stone them. Tried to kill them. Yes, while we were there in Bethlehem. They were able to get away and get help from the IDF to render aid, and they, last time we heard, they were still in the hospital. But people are willing to kill for what they believe. They're willing to upset their entire life for what they believe. But we are set back. We are disruptive. We are angry when something happens and we can't get to what our flesh wants. So we give up. We throw in the towel. We say, it's not worth it. It's not worth all the hell and havoc that I've got to go through. It's not worth it. But here these people live in war every single day. And every day they still worship the King of Kings. Every day they fight to get back to the house of God. They fight to get back to worship. They fight to get back to dance in the presence of a king. On this trip, I can't give you much details, but on this trip, I met an individual. They travel internationally. They're part of the organization that I am licensed through to go into countries that are stricken and prohibited for Christians to go into. They went into it, and when they were there, they tied themselves to a cross for 45 minutes, telling Muslim girls about God. And this person hasn't been back for a while because they had reasonable suspicion to believe that somebody took a video of them and placed it on the internet. And therefore they was in fear that they was out to kill them if they went back to that country. Nevertheless, they were still willing to go back. As I talked to them later on, and I was able to help them with a few things, and I asked them, are you going back now? They said, now that my name is clear, yes, I will be going back. Even in the areas that you can be killed. Yes, because everybody needs to hear about Jesus. I was shook to my core because I get upset when we get snow and I got to cancel service. Or when I'm woke up in the middle of the night, God wants me to pray, I'm just too tired. But here, someone's willing to risk life to tell somebody about God. But yet I get upset when I'm woken up in the night to pray. We need to change the mindset of Americans. Hey, if you can use anything, God, use me. Use me for your kingdom, use me for your glory, and use me for your will. So let me tell you, the people of this country fought to have this place back because they believed in it. What if you came here one day and the doors were locked with chains around and the military was outside and told you you're not allowed to come in here? Would you turn around and walk away and say, well, God, I guess that's the end of it? Or would you fight for what you believe? If you believe in receiving the Holy Ghost, receive being baptized, if you believe that God is going to return for his bride, which is the church, then why are we laying silent? Why are we not pushing the envelope and saying, God, use me for your glory. Allow me to spread your word. Allow me to go to and from and far to tell those about God. Going to this country will change everything that's inside of you. To the very locations, temples where God sat on a stool at 12 years old, where they believed that God sat there 12 years old and taught those in the temple. Walked on the very streets where Jesus drug the cross, was in the very pit where they whipped him to the cat of nine tails, where his blood shed on the walls. I stood in the very tomb of that area. But we struggle to raise our hands in worship when we come into the house of God because of things that are heavy on our minds. But what if the only thing that was on our mind is spreading the gospel of God? What if the only thing we had in us was, what can I do to tell somebody about Him? You stand with me today. He said He'd write His name in Jerusalem. He did. This is for a Bible study another time, but your DNA, He wrote His name in your DNA as well. It's scientifically proven that He wrote His name in your DNA. He made us in His image. And who are we to discard? Who are we just to throw aside? Bow your head today. Will you pray that God will use you in a way that you've never been used before? That you'll be excited to spread the gospel of God. That you'll be excited to be able to tell somebody how great, how good your God is. Come on, will you open your mouths today? Will you raise your hand? Will you touch heaven today?
You can use anything, Lord. You can use me.